Being a feminine man made me suicidal. I was like every other young man growing up in the modern times. No masculine figures to look up to, played video games, watched porn, chased feminine purpose, and ended up with bouts of suicidal nihilism. I'm certain that for anybody looking in, they would have thought I needed antidepressants and therapy. And I can tell you certainly now that I did not need either of those things, and what I needed was to live true to my core. Millions of fellow men go through the exact same things, and their suffering only ends because they end their own life. So I'm grateful that I went through that suicidal nihilism and I'm able to recognize it for what it was, as it means that I can help my fellow men not go through the same thing or help them through it. So what happened? All of this happened about 3 years ago, and so my memories of it are quite vague and blurry. I was around 19 and there was 2 separate days when all of this happened. The first time it happened was after a long day of doing nothing during the COVID lockdown. It was around midnight and before I had even gotten ready for bed. So I was probably scrolling through social media to the point where I didn't get any more enjoyment from doing so. But I had no alternative to get any sort of pleasure, so I kept squeezing out as much pleasure as I possibly could, to no avail. It was the only thing that I knew to do to get any sort of enjoyment out of life. I was brought up like a woman and I sure acted like it. I didn't connect to my masculine core, and I spent all my time pursuing feminine goals. Like trying to have the best possible relationship with my now ex-girlfriend, spending all my time with my friends and having fun. Things like that would connect to a feminine core, but not my core. So I behaved like a feminine man, and it made me contemplate suicide. But after dragging on the dopamine hit as long as I could, I put my phone away to force myself to try to get up. But I just stayed still in bed, staring up at my ceiling, and before long, thoughts started to come to my head. And for context, I have had entrepreneurial goals and thoughts of having freedom ever since I was around 16, where I was playing basketball and wanted to make it into the NBA. And around the time of the story, I had a dream of becoming successful in dropshipping and becoming financially free. And I envisioned it so well that I truly believed that I was going to live it. And even though I was taking no action to get there and only mentally masturbating, but that's another story. Basically, I was very aware of how good life could get, but I was laying still in my bed, staring up at my ceiling after having scrolled through social media for hours on end, alone, and thinking about how depressing my life is compared to how I want to live. And I really did think about my future and about life in general. I will have to get a job at some point so I don't live out in the streets and work that job for the rest of my life. My parents, grandparents, aunt and uncle will all die, my pets will die, and I thought, what is all this for? For some twisted reason, I have to live through all of that and suffer the entire time. And even leading up to it, I'm going to live knowing the suffering that I'm going to go through. And both of the times I had bouts of suicidal nihilism, my string of thoughts was nearly identical. I didn't understand why life included so much suffering, and so I wanted to end my life so I wouldn't have to suffer at all. And in the end, the only thing that stopped me from thinking about killing myself further and then actually doing it was knowing how much my loved ones would suffer if I killed myself, because I understood how painful death would be. And if I hadn't had that thought, I wouldn't be here today. The pain I felt during those moments were unmatched to anything I've ever felt before. But again, I'm grateful that I went through it and came out unharmed, because here's what I have learned from that experience. He who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how. I had no reason for my suffering, which meant I suffered for no reason. In contrast to now, my life is objectively worse, yet I'm happier. The only difference now is that I have purpose and a reason to go through all the suffering that life has to offer me. My reason and purpose being to retire my parents, to become successful and give my girlfriend all the things that she ever wanted, build a better life for myself and the closest people around me, help men with their problems and help them become the best versions of themselves, and leave a little dent in the universe. And I understand now that without me being here, all those things I said wouldn't happen. People would suffer and become miserable if I wasn't able to give the world my gifts. Responsibility is the antidote to suffering. Having no responsibilities means that everything you do has no meaning, and so nothing that you do makes a difference in the world. And by taking on responsibilities, it means that you can make the world a better place, even if it's by a little. And so for me, I understood that I need to be stronger than my suffering, so that I can take on responsibility and make the world a better place. Again, even if it's just a little. The importance of masculinity. Having a why and having responsibility are two different ways of saying purpose. Boil down all the other factors that made me have bouts of suicidal nihilism, and it was purpose. I had no purpose, I was pursuing feminine goals, and it made me suicidal. I was doing what I thought would make me feel fulfilled, but it didn't. And I chased alternatives to feel fulfilled, and I still didn't feel fulfilled. And so now personally, I understand the power of masculine drive. My masculine drive to pursue my purpose is so much stronger than any suffering that I will ever encounter in my life. So for any fellow men who are suffering right now, understand that there is an extinguished fire within you, and when that fire is lit up again, it will give you a reason to beat and get through anything in life. So please take my advice, and don't become yet another suicidal man due to not having purpose in life, the exact same way I was those few years ago.